everyone. Welcome to our podcast, which is Mama Mia, that's me, and her,
Minnie.
that's her. And we did hear someone talking about how much we looked alike yesterday. We went to the farm and we were chatting with some of the ladies there. And they said it in Swahili, which I think the word is fanana. Fanana. They're like, firstborn, fanana, wewe, me, which is me. Wewe is you, but that's me. And so I was like, yes, it's true. So we have that story. So that's one of the reasons why we picked the name of this podcast, because it really does happen pretty often. So welcome to our kitchen table where we have so many meals together. Some of my favorite foods is whenever Jason cooks, he grills like steak and mushrooms. He makes asparagus, baked potatoes, pork loin. Delicious. Right, do you have a favorite meal that we've eaten at this table before?
I love pizza, so I love when Dad makes pizza.
He does make homemade pizza with some pepperonis from the States. Yeah, so in the background, that's like our kitchen, and like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a water filter system. We cannot drink the water from the faucet. Right here, in this basket, we have a ton of mangoes because, I feel like they're ready, and we are selling them to town. So our family gets the rejects, anybody that's like, nah, but then we eat them, and they're really yummy. I think we have a limit. You can have 6 mangoes a day.
8, there's like baby. They're like this small, and you can eat 8 a day.
8 a day, yikes. We had to put a cap on it because they're just like eating them like every single second. I'm like, whoa, how many are you eating? So 8 a day.
The chapter's title is Why Do You Want to Be Famous? Mm-hmm. So that's the start. It's like, oh, I'm curious what this is going to have to say about this, because it's like, you can just think of so many things with people. It's like, oh, I want to be this or that, and I want to be known all over. But when you were little, what was something like, did you want to be famous? And if so, like, what did you want to be famous?
I feel like our family was on the sheltered side, so I don't really know if I understood what like celebrities were or famous people or movie stars or any of that. But I would say like nowadays for sure I'm aware, and I do find their lives very fascinating. I like to read myself a People magazine every now and then to hear what the celebrities are doing. Yeah, I'm like, oh, they got married, oh, they got divorced, that's sad. And this is how they spent their summer vacation. I find it very fascinating. So the first quote to open up the chapter was from Mr. Rogers, who he did like the childhood show, and it was, fame is a 4-letter word like tape or Zoom or face or pain or life or love. What ultimately matters is what we do with it. And I was like, I like that. Actually, you hear the 4-letter word, you're like, cringe. You're like, means a bad word. But he was saying, no, it's like, there's so many 4-letter words that are, they all have their own meanings, and it doesn't have to be bad. So I thought that was interesting. I was thinking that here in this town, we live in a town, we do not live in a city, right? Mm-hmm. But it is predominantly Muslim, but still the Muslim youth actually like know about fame a little bit, or know about like what's trending, because right at the end of our road, there's always TikTok videos happening with these Somali youth, and they're wearing really nice clothes, like new clothes with like, to me, it seems like the latest styles, and they're doing like dances that I think are trending, and I'm like, how do they know
TikTok
about
dances.
this? Yeah. And then so we live in this small town, and you grew up here your whole life, and so did your sisters. But I will hear, especially your youngest sister, Samara, talking about, this famous YouTuber, or she knows all, and I'm like, how do you know these things? I've never heard of these people before. That's where we live. Like, we don't listen to the radio. We don't go into a store and hear the latest music or the latest songs. It just always is surprising to me, but it just shows that it is something that very well known.
For me, growing up, and like even just in my family in general, like I'm the wit sister that doesn't really know about this or that. There's one other sister I feel like we're kind of the same. We're like, oh, we don't really care that much about this person or this thing. When I was younger, I wasn't thinking about wanting to be famous or that desire. Recently, I like somewhat have a desire, but like also I don't, because I think for me, my desire is to meet a lot of people and to get to talk to people, but it's not about the famous part of like
Right.
being known all
Yes.
over. Like I do like to know people and talk with them, but that's not like the part of,
Popularity
Yeah.
contest, like winning a popularity contest. Yeah. This part, I don't know if it was interesting to you. It talked about a recent study in this this current generation, right? This young generation, desire for fame is 1 out of 9 would rather be famous than get married. 1 out of 9. 1 out of 10 would rather be famous than go to college. And then a very few, not like a majority, but a very few said they would even disown their family in order, if it meant they would be famous. They'd be willing to go to that extreme, to go to that length to be famous. I was like, okay. Yeah, it was very surprising to me. What did you read that? Did you think anything when you read that?
I feel like it's not surprising knowing where the world is at, because I would say the world today is very much wanting to do what makes you happy, what
Sure.
makes you feel good, and what you want to do. It's not about, oh, let's put others first, like what the Bible
Yeah.
says. Let's think of others, love others better than yourself.
Yeah.
The world now is like love yourself more than anyone else. So for me, it just makes me sad, because I'm
Yeah.
like, we've
So far away
So,
from what
yeah.
God's best is for our
Yeah.
lives. Yeah. There was a part that she was talking about, like, we strive and desire attention and love from others so much that's why we're willing to go to all this. I was trying to see if I could relate to that. I would say, like, I don't feel like I'm striving and seeking out attention, but I am aware that we are able to live here because people support us financially and prayerfully, and I'm really, really thankful to that. That there could be a temptation that I would put on myself. People don't put this on me, that I have to deliver story for them to show that their investment into our lives is worth it. Like, do I need to make sure, like, what am I doing in ministry so that I can give them, like, reporting so that they could be like, oh, good, I've been praying for you and I've been sending money and that's a good job. When really, my audience is the Lord and I answer to Him. I don't even answer to our supporters.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't do things in life for them to get their approval. Yeah. So that's a temptation I was realizing.
like one of the questions was like, do you believe that you would be more lovable or valuable if you have a fan base? And I feel like you kind of just are like talking about that. It's like we're supposed to be doing what we're doing for others.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be for Jesus, and that's our end goal. That's not supposed to be oh, I'll have this many people that are giving money or this many people reaching out to me every week. It's about living for the Lord, and it doesn't matter like how many fans you have.
Right. And so, but I do like to keep people updated with a blog. And the reason I do that is not to be like, oh, sweet, now I have all these followers, now I have a fan base, is to like let them know this is what God is at work at doing. And sometimes it's hard for me to see it, but these like little victories are little battles that's won for Him.
Yeah.
There is a battle going on, and there is an enemy that hates us, and he does want to destroy people. There is God that's fighting for His people. And so I love to tell the story so people can worship God and see that He's glorified. So that's why I like to write.
One of her quotes is, our calling is not to seek fame, but to seek our purpose within God's kingdom. And so I feel like that lines up with what you're saying. It's like it's about telling people God's story and how God is using your story. What He's teaching you is you sharing with others.
Right. Another part that we have to face because we are missionaries is we stand out in this town, in this community, as being one of the very few Americans. So if we go somewhere, we're noticed. I think for me, especially, people are always like, you have 4 kids. Like, even growing up, they were like little babies. They're like, we've never seen a white baby before. She looks like a dolly. Like, people would say that to me all the time. I'm like, a dolly? All right. So that is something that I think that maybe we can relate a little bit to celebrities. Like the celebrities are always noticed. Sometimes we do have people that have their phones that are just wanting to take our picture. We're just like stuffing our faces. We're just eating at a restaurant and they're wanting to take our pictures, or like we're picking out material in the market and you see someone like very obvious. For sure, I know actors and actresses and famous singers have a multitude of paparazzi. Ours is like one or two. But I think that we're able to relate in a very, very small level of what it feels like. And for us, what we always say is we are just normal people.
Yeah.
We have the same kind of blood as somebody else. We make mistakes as anybody else. We're not perfect as anybody else. Yeah. So we're nothing special. So that's the part I know, that celebrities and famous people, they're just human beings.
People, it's like my color does not define me. Like, also I often tell them, because they always tell me white is so much more beautiful, or
like,
you're
that's
so
a lie.
so much more this or that, and I'm always like, okay, what color is your blood? And I'll be like red, and I'm like, okay, my blood is also red.
Right.
So it's like we both have the same color blood, and we're both females, and we're both this and that, and trying to find things that we can relate with, not distinguish that, because yes, Kenyan culture and American culture are different.
I like to even show them sometimes like the common ground, like, you know, one of you is sick, so I have to take you to the doctor. Like, we also get sick, we get cold. That's the same. There's times that we don't sleep well in the middle of the night. Maybe we've had a bad dream, like just to like have that common ground. And I even think for politicians right now, it's an election year in America. It's in the next few days, there's going to be voting. And so many times people try to pit one person over the other, like, they're the villain, and to know like they're a human. They show even politicians, even ones that maybe you wouldn't like or I wouldn't like, they show them they're a human. They didn't say something correctly, or they accidentally tripped. You kind of feel compassion for them, or they're struggling with something in their family. One of their family members got a diagnosis that was really sad. You have compassion for a politician you don't agree with. But I think that should be our look for everybody.
One of the questions she asks are, where do you find your purpose? And then one of the quotes that I felt like answer that or went along with that is, she says, I think God gave everyone a purpose to love God and love people. Simple as that. And I was realizing by her saying that is how we complicate that so much. Because we're like, oh, I have to have a purpose, I have to have this job, or I have to make this amount of money, or I need to live here and have this many kids, or I need to this and this and this. And it's like, we don't have to do that. God didn't ask us to do all these things and check the boxes. He asked us simply to love Him and love others.
That's it.
That's it. That's all that He's asked. But I think we put this pressure on ourselves. Like, I have to perform here. I have to get this grade. I have to pass this test. I need to travel to this place and this many fans or this many likes on a post, where God didn't ask that of us. He simply asks us to love others. To love Him. You know? And I was like, what?
She was even labeling this, like a lot of people, the terminology is purpose anxiety. They're trying to find out, what is my purpose in life? And if I don't have a purpose in life, like, where am I? What am I doing? Where am I going? Like, and you feel so much emptiness. I don't know if I've ever had purpose anxiety, but I remember there was a time period I had a lot of anxiety attacks, and they would just get my heart pumping. I felt like I didn't have control. I think I was always worried about something bad happening. What I do with you children, like if something bad happened, what would be, like I always wanted to have a plan of action, and it made my mind so tired overthinking that all the time. And so I did go to counseling, and the counselor was just like, do you know how much God loves you? And I was like, of course, I tell it to everybody. She's like, I know you tell other people, but do you know that? Do you believe that? And I think that was something that I wasn't living for. I wasn't having faith about. And that really helped cure my anxiety attacks that I were having every day. And some of them were making me physically sick. And I think it's been years now since I had them, and I was having them every day.
One of her other quotes that I feel like goes on to talking about your purpose is, you don't have to be the loudest one out there, but let your life live out your purpose. So the definition of your purpose, being famous or being seen or heard, is very much like, oh, I need to be loud. I need to, everyone to be looking at me. Where I don't think that's what it's about. And so for me, I'm not the loudest one in my family. And for me, I feel like the Lord has gifted me in seeing those who are unseen. So if there's someone sitting in the corner, I see them and I'm like, oh, I want to go meet them. I want to go talk to them. And something I've also found that's really odd is sometimes when I'm with someone that's super loud and I know that they can talk a lot, I don't often talk that much because I know they can talk.
Yeah, so you let them.
Yeah, but when it's someone that doesn't talk, I find myself talking so much and sharing with them, what is God teaching me?
Sure.
How can I be praying for you? Asking those hard questions. Christ and bringing it and telling my story that Jesus is using.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so I feel like for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not the loudest one, but that doesn't mean that those people that aren't loud are any less seen. They are seen. They might not be the center of attention. They might not be seen by so many people, but there's people that see them and that love them.
What you were talking about reminded me that like yours can like be like a chameleon, whatever background or whatever situation it is, like you can step up to do that. If someone's quiet, you can be able to fill in the silence, you know, with being able to talk about truthful things and encouragement things. But if someone is more comfortable talking, you are just as comfortable as sit back and listen, and content with that. It's cool.
Her questions is, what are some specific situations in which you can imagine yourself when you want to remind yourself that you are wanted and loved and cared for by Jesus? In town, when guys are like doing cat calls, or when people are saying that your beauty is only your skin color, or your beauty is only, like maybe some people will say it's your body, or people will say it's your voice, or people will say it's when you're wearing makeup, or the, just different stuff. Is like to remind yourself that the Lord loves you for you, and He's not asking you to maybe go on this diet or lose weight or gain muscle or any of that. He loves you for who you are. Yes, He does want you to eat healthy, and He wants you to strive to do better and
be
to
active, be physical.
But He's not wanting you to take these big steps of like, oh, I need to change drastically because of this. So like when guys are saying like, oh, you're only beautiful because of your skin color, it's like, no, I know that I'm beautiful for who I am, and the Lord, like my beauty is not from my outer appearance. I want to be known for my beauty of my heart, that I care for others, that I love others, that I want to seek Jesus every single day.
For sure. I think my answer would be like to remember all the many times, if I look back at the years and see He has been faithful. He has protected. He has gotten us through sicknesses. He has been with us on the road when we're traveling for hours, and we didn't get into a car accident, and just there's so many ways I could see He loves us. He's a good Father to us, and He has given us some of the very best gifts that we never even dreamed of. He's given to us.
Another quote is, if God has put something in your heart to do, then He will open the doors to do it. And I feel like, especially as me being someone that's trying to figure out, okay, what's next? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? It's, for me, I find it very overwhelming because I'm like, I've lived here and grew up here my whole entire life. So it's like, oh, anything I do is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of change. It's going to be overwhelming. The Lord has put things in my heart. He has put care for others and for wanting to help others and to walk with people that don't know Jesus, or walk with people that are finding out about Jesus. And what are those steps of being able to be that mentor for others? What are those steps of teaching younger kids about Jesus? Like that is by knowing fully what I believe, that I can answer any questions, because I need to be firm in my faith before I try and help someone else. Because then you're not being able to actually lead someone, because you yourself are still figuring out. It's important to know what our flesh will fail us. We aren't able to do everything we want to because we're human. but with Christ, he makes the impossible possible. So it's like, for me, I have all these daydreams of what I want to do. I'm like, oh, I want to go into cosmetology and use that as a ministry, and then I want to be a teacher, and then I want to be children's ministry at the church also, and then I also want to be a missionary to this and that, and it's like, you can't do all of that stuff.
Right.
But the Lord, through all of that, it's like the Lord is showing me I have a care for others.
Yes.
And I find that no matter what I do, I can always find people to care about and to talk to them about Jesus. And I don't need to go through all this schooling for it.
Right.
The Lord might lead me down that route, but he also might not.
Right.
And that's okay.
The part that I think about it is like, after us living here for so many years, sometimes people will ask us, how many people have converted to become Christians? And we're like, it's very few. Like, we can maybe count on one hand. Yeah, but I don't know if all the fingers will be up. Like, while we're sitting here, you guys can see, like, we have a painting that was done here of the farm, and that's where majority of Jason spends his time majority at the farm, and there's many farm workers there. A lot of them do not know Jesus as the Savior, only as a prophet, and we are almost grieved, how can it come, all of the farm workers are not saved or not, all this, but it's in his timing, and it could happen, not in our lifetime. It could happen when we go and somebody else comes, and or he doesn't need to show us. They could be even some secret believers now that we're not aware of. They don't have to tell us. So when we're striving for goals for the future and everything, that's one that we still will always pray. We have that here. So every time we're eating meal, Lord, thank you for this food. Also, please continue to do the work in the hearts of the farm workers. Yeah, and never stop praying, never giving up on that.
Going back to this chapter about why do we want to be famous? I feel like, as you were saying earlier, we somewhat can feel like we're famous to a small extent. I feel like some of the stuff that goes with that is people staring.
They do.
Just everybody staring. And it's just this is crazy.
Why?
And I often find it's from the male gender in town, because more often in town it is the male gender.
Sure.
Not a lot of females are, I would say maybe 30% females and then 70% males.
I think there's probably close to being equal amount, but the women are often in the house,
yeah, so
cleaning
you don't
and
really
cooking.
see them.
Yeah.
But then they're the ones staring at you, which can be
uncomfortable.
Very
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Awkward.
Often when we drive out to the farm, we have to pass through several villages, so the kids will come out and be waving to you,
cute.
Nzungu, saying white person, and so then I feel with celebrities and with us, it's you're gonna have good days and bad days. So one day you might be super excited, waving at the kids, and then another day you might be really sad or angry, and so then you might not see this one kid that's waving at you. That's all they want is for you to wave back at them, and it's a smile. So for me, I feel it's kind of crazy when you go to a concert, and sometimes every concert has something different.
Sure.
So for one, one concert we went to, they had an X on the floor somewhere, and so the guy was okay, everyone look down, and if you have the red X, you need to make a path. And so then nobody knew he was actually going to go to where that X was in the room, because it was just somewhere. And so then, as he's making his way there, then he gets to bless someone and make their day by being where that person is. And just different things at concerts where sometimes they'll take the person's phone and the person will have that video that they never knew they were going to have a video of the person.
Yeah, every once in a while they'll have them come on stage and sing with them a little part, and then go back down.
There's special things that famous people like to do to acknowledge their fans and to make that fan feel special. Yeah. And I just feel wow, that's cool. And just imagining what if you were that one person? How would you feel? And realizing that God does that for us. Yeah. He, we're just someone in the crowd that we're following him, but he sees us and he knows us all by our names and is come up here, Rebecca. I want to,
sure.
like, how about you share about this? How do you think,
Yeah.
what do you think about teaching or all that? Like, he knows you. He
Yes.
knows your story and how beautiful that is that he actually knows us.
Yeah. There's a verse that talks about he knows the number of hairs that are on our heads. Yeah, like that intimately. So he knows our secrets that we didn't tell anybody else, but he still loves us. Yeah.
The thing I try to remind myself often is it's okay to stand out and not be like everyone else.
Yeah.
It's actually a good thing because you're not letting the world define
Mm-hmm.
you. You are called to rise above it and to love God and love our neighbor.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, that's something I try to remind myself is I'm not supposed to look like everyone or act like everyone else. Yeah. I'm supposed to love others. I'm supposed to love God. I'm supposed to strive to be more like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not supposed to fit in. I'm not supposed to be someone that, just fits into the crowd. I'm supposed to be someone that is praising Jesus. If that's lifting your hands in worship for some people, or if that's journaling every day, or if that's sitting at a table reading your Bible when everyone else is playing a card game, or wanting to go out to buy clothes, or different things, doing those small steps, or in Walmart going up to someone saying, hey, how can I pray for you, or how's your day going, or opening the door up for someone. Those small acts of showing that you're different.
Yeah, it's true. You don't need to do what everybody else is doing.
No.
That's boring. We all look alike. Yeah. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for next time. You'll be in a different room in our house, and stay tuned for the future. We were talking about having guests that we interview on our podcast, so that will be really fun. Yes, have a good day or a good evening. Bye. That's good. I think that's a good ending. Yeah.